Go for it.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the regular board meeting of the Board of Directors of Camper Park CPC. It is Wednesday, January 20th, 2021, and we are beginning our meeting at 6:33 p.m. Just to mention from the beginning, we are using teleconference and electronic meeting protocols, which are attached to the agenda for anyone who wants to be aware of that as we move through our evening. So we will start with our first item of business, which will be a roll call. General Manager, would you do that, please?
Director Easton?
Here.
Director Carlson?
Here.
Director Bazette? Is he muted?
He is muted.
Okay, now can you hear me?
We can hear you now, Sydney.
Okay, very good.
And you're here.
And I'm here also, yes.
Oh, good, good. And Director Witten?
Here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, General Manager. And now we move.
Bill, you skipped Monique. What about me?
Oh,
First you want me here and then you don't.
sorry. All discombobulated. Director Scobie, are you here this evening?
Maybe. Yes.
We would like you to join us.
Thank you. I'm here.
Okay, good.
Thank you, General Manager. All right, let's move to our second item of Pledge of Allegiance. Ellie, would you lead us in that, please?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty for all. Amen. Liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, Director Wooten. Appreciate that. A reminder, public testimony is received on each agenda item as it is called. Principal parties on each side of an issue are allocated 10 minutes to speak. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes, except with consent of the board. The rest is in the agenda, and seeing no other public attendees here, we'll waive the rest of the reading and move to the adoption of the agenda. So, fellow directors, do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections to this, or do we have a motion?
This is Director Carlson. I move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Carlson and a second by Director Scobie. General Manager, can you roll call, please?
Let's try it again. Director Easton?
Aye.
Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette?
Aye.
Director Scobie?
Aye.
And Director Wooten?
Aye.
Wonderful. So we have the adoption of the agenda. Next, we move to the open forum for non-agenda items, normally reserved for members of the public who may speak at this time on any item not on the agenda that falls within the jurisdiction of the Board of Directors. Alyssa, correct me, but I do not see that we have any members of the public attending. Is that correct?
You are correct.
Okay. Seeing as none here, we will close open forum. And we will move to our next item here, which would be workshop number 2, strategic plan. And we have moved this. General Manager, just a quick question. Do you want to do this before the approval of consent agenda? I guess we've adopted the
Yeah.
agenda, so that's how it is, right?
Yeah, I actually put the workshop in where we typically have presentations and recognitions, because it was a conversation item, dialogue between all the board members. It wasn't necessarily a business item. And so that's why I had the workshop where it was.
Thank you for the reminder on that. Okay, so we will move to workshop number 2. And this is to continue our discussion from our special meeting last week. And so at this point, Brent, I think I will hand this over to you to lead us in our next steps for tonight. If you can orient us where we'll go and our time frame for that, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Got a different view here, so I'm asking you, I'm going to have to share my screen. So Jill or Alyssa.
I'll make you a co-host right now.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm not even in there tonight.
You're all set.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what I've got to do is, because you're on a different screen, I'm viewing view options. Stop participating Persistent. Yeah, there you go. That's different. Yeah, okay, I'm going to share my screen, and I am. I don't know what you're seeing. You might be seeing all sorts of interesting stuff, but I'm going to put this over here, and you're going to say, "Oh, okay, I recognize that look." Do you see the PowerPoint?
Nope.
Oh,
I
not
see
now.
you.
I did it again. I'm starting out tonight with
And I think people
just to
may have been,
remind you.
yeah,
What do you see? You do see in that PowerPoint now?
nope.
No.
Nope.
You don't.
Only seeing you.
Well, I appreciate that, but that won't get it done.
There we go. That's,
This should get
yes.
it done. Okay. Make it large enough. Make this smaller. And just to remind you that we had finished up last week with Whitney's pie chart. And this week now we're going to, while we still have some inputs, all of those extra inputs from the survey. And I guess, Whitney, you can say, have you received much sense?
Since I pulled a report on Friday, I think
Yeah.
4 or 5 people that that
All
have
right.
reached out since then. So not a
All
ton.
right. Anything significant there? I mean, do we need to kind of review that, or was it pretty much still split around?
It was all, yeah, pretty much very similar to what we've seen.
Okay, and board, if you remember, I shared with all of you the number of slides that we had reviewed, and also the input, at least that I had received from Whitney slide. I added that one, so hopefully you've had a chance to review that. Is there anyone that would like to continue the discussion on the survey, or any questions or thoughts you might have on that? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on then. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at the mission. And none of you had any significant issues with the mission statement as it is, and I'll put it up there shortly, I'm sure. There it is. But I want to remind you some things about mission. Mission is why the public's money gets raked into a pile there for you to spend on those particular items. Yes.
Brett, I don't
Yes.
see the mission on your shared screen.
No, it's not on this.
Neither.
It's on the next screen. Why? I'm sorry. I just want to remind you generically about a mission. Then I'm going to go to your mission, and we're going to look at it. All right?
So Brent,
We're going to get to it.
what we're looking at right now is a Zoom screen.
Really? You're looking at this
Yeah,
screen?
so I don't think we have your PowerPoint yet.
I don't think you do.
So I see a PowerPoint.
You did have it, right?
No,
Nope, never had
I've
it.
never seen it.
I thought somebody said we had the PowerPoint. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, we see your screen, but not the PowerPoint.
I have 3 screens, and so when I appreciate your patience on this. So I need a new share, and the PowerPoint is there.
There you are.
Hi. And does that show the PowerPoint?
It does.
Yes.
We're there.
CPC
Wow,
as
thank
the
you.
mission.
Thank you for your patience. Okay, and so
There.
again, where we ended up was Whitney's pie chart. That's what I was talking about, and you guys had no idea. But of course you remember this that we did, and it hasn't changed much. And now we're going to move through to just some generic thoughts on mission. Mission is why you exist as an agency. And as such, really everything that you do, whether it be new or current, needs to link back to this mission. And so when you look at your mission, you have to look at or feel as if, or understand as if it is your prime statement. For me, in my experience in just sharing the importance of a mission is that it should be one of the prime decision filters we put everything through. And so it's important to the degree that it should be the reason you serve, because in all reality, what the public believes is that's why you're there. And here it is. And your thoughts and your inputs when I asked you and when I talked to all of you is basically it's okay. There were some comments though, in there, but nothing so specific that I wrote down. I mean, I looked at my notes over and over and I didn't see anything. And so if I missed something, I apologize. But I need for you to review it now. This is one of the times where you get to review it and modify it, refine it as you see fit as a board. You have the right to do that. Now, it doesn't change now, but it would change if you did change it when you adopt the new strategic plan. That would be part of what you were doing there. So it's your turn to talk. So tell me what you think. Is there anybody have a new thought on the mission statement?
I have a thought. I like it. I think that, and in fact, the more now I see it again, I like it even more when you marry it to what our role here is at the district. So we have our safeguard the health and safety and welfare of our community. That's our fire services that we do. I think that is captured here. The quality of life I see is very much captured by our let's see, our parks and our rec programs that we have, the community center that we have. And then it says, and then the words preserve and enhance the quality of life, I see as kind of encapsulating our CCNRs that we do, because our quality of life is kind of how our neighborhood there. And so I kind of I see this as pretty much, I actually like it. I don't know if I'd change anything. I would be hard pressed to change anything, but I want to hear what other people have to say too.
Pretty much an open forum. Anybody else?
Yeah,
I kind of think less is more. And I could see where you could go off and add to this, but it encapsulates some really broad concepts. And in that sense, the simplicity of it is actually really excellent.
The one thing I would say is that there's a number of these words that aren't necessary. Our mission is to preserve and the implied nature of where it comes from is maybe the one thing that if you wanted to trim it a little in just a number of words, where you place it, where you put it would always begin with you. But it's really, that's just a preference matter. It's not a big thing, but it would be smaller.
I have to say that the sentence structure for me has always been difficult. Starting a sentence with "it is," I just never felt was a good thing.
And it's not a big deal either.
That's my feedback. I mean, I like what it says. I would just start it, not, our mission or the mission of the Cameron Parks Community Services District. Just not, you don't need, it is.
I mean, that's purely up to you, board. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I like the suggestion about simply saying our mission is to preserve, because if it's under a heading of the Cameron Park Community Service District, there's no need to repeat that.
And I would agree with Eric on that. That's my feeling as well. Is if it's already on the CPCSD website, then why repeat it?
It's always either attached to your website. It could be on your business card. It could be up above your dais. It could be, presuming we eventually have dais again, it's always going to be yours.
And if it needs to be put in another context without the title, we can always put it in, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But for general, I think the only other things I'd add tend to be more semantic, and my English teacher comes through here. Safeguarding safety is a linguistic repetition that has always struck me as, okay. I don't have a suggestion for what else. So
Safeguarding health,
might leave
safeguarding
that.
safety, safeguarding welfare.
This is, after, when you're done, Eric, I have a comment.
No problem. The only other piece in there is, as I was considering this, and this came up in a question, one of my questions last time, is what is our role now in these days, because our community is different than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And to talk about safeguarding the health, safety, and welfare of our community is a really broad statement. And there are a lot of things about the health and welfare of our community that we have nothing to do with. So I don't know if there's a focusing piece to this, whether we say the essential safety and welfare, but maybe even that's too broad. There are a lot of things we don't cover. We don't handle food security. We don't handle, a lot of things that have to do with essential welfare. So I just put that to the board to see if there's any other thoughts, or if you feel like this captures it. Okay.
I kind of think, being a bit older than any of you, dear people, that it's a community of over 50% at least of senior people, and that one of our missions is to provide something for them to put into their lives, like the park or a bocce or whatever, and many of the things we had or will have again up there at Cameron Park. But I kind of look out for what are things that the seniors would enjoy and do enjoy, sometimes more than the Elks or many of the groups. And I believe Jill's been to some of the groups, and that they enjoy coming up here because there are things, whether it's a band playing or whatever, that is geared toward senior citizens. And I like that idea about Cameron Park.
Okay.
And that's rung true in the survey results as well, Ellie. And I think captured in here are all the idea is, why is the public's money, why is the public's interest, what was the original idea of the district? And certainly whatever those things that you brought up ring true in the survey, they're hopefully captured in this. And they shouldn't, if they're not, if they're somebody else's job. I know there was a time when a district in the Bay Area had nearly 30% of its money going to historical preservation of properties that were given to them, but never really, that was never part of their mission. And so much of the public's money that was being spent was gathered as it was being spent on something that wasn't their mission. And in that city was a historical society. And so that's where you want to be careful not to get outside of the mission. And what you just explained, Ellie, is directly within this. And so it's absolutely a quality of life for everybody, but the seniors too, absolutely.
But I'd like to
I have a-
back.
Director Carlson, I think you had wanted to say something.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple thoughts, but one is going back to this word safeguard that Director Aston, you pointed out, is a bit repetitive with safety. And I also think it's repetitive with the word preserve. We've already said preserve. Now we're saying safeguard. I think it's really the same meaning. So I'm gonna throw out two thoughts here. One, just to think about. One is to delete a bunch of words, and it would be, our mission is to preserve and enhance the quality of life, comma, the health, safety, and welfare of our community. I'm not like going to stand by this 100%, but I just want to throw out the idea. So it would be getting rid of exactly down to that. So that's one thought. And then my other thought, just listening to Mr. Ives talk about, you know, specifically what we do and what we don't do. Because, for example, we do not have an emergency alert system. We're not responsible for it. We don't provide welfare, you know, checks the way maybe the county might provide welfare checks for people that need them. You know, I don't even know about those services. So I'm just going to throw another idea. What if we got like much more specific and we said something like, our mission is to provide fire protection and recreational opportunities for our community. So that's just super specific, but that I believe, I mean, we were founded on fire protection and then we, you know, we evolved to have recreation, and those are kind of, I think, our main two services.
Yeah.
So those are two thoughts that I have.
Well,
I don't know.
I can undo this, guys, so we can always go back. I just did it for the sake of a look-see, the way it would from what you first said, Director Carlson. And you know, this is I know this is editing by, you know, by group, by committee, and it's not the easiest thing. But in all reality, you're rotating around the same things. It is you know, preserve the quality of life, and you're just trying to say, well, look, we have kind of pointed out these three things, but is that really our three things? I mean, is it really the is recreational health even a term, Jill? Is fire safety a term that would fit? Welfare is really the general welfare, the overarching welfare, which is the quality of life.
That's right.
So just roll that around, add to the mix.
I'd like to, if you hit undo
Right.
and just substitute the word, I agree with, I agree with
Do you see that?
Eric and Felicity's comments on safety being redundant. What would it look like if we just substituted the word secure for the word?
Oh wow, it's all coming back, but not in the. Do you see my screen, guys? I mean, I hope you're.
Yes.
Do not.
For some reason, PowerPoint quit, and so now I'm getting back to your presentation. You see it, I hope.
I just see everybody else's faces.
That's all I see.
We don't
do,
see
then I need
And yours too.
Good.
we don't see your presentation, Brent.
Okay, I'm resharing. I don't know why it all went away. Does it come up now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back down, and I don't know where it ended up in terms of the mission statement. Right there. Nope, the next one. So that's where it ended up, but that does. So that's the old. That's the original.
That's where I wanted to start and see what
Right.
it looks like if you replace the word safeguard with secure. And I understand, I kind of get where you guys are going with the specifics. That makes sense to me. But I think for a mission statement, it needs to be flexible. And then as we drill down, I think we get more specific. So we start broad and get more specific as we get down into our policies and so forth. So I like it being not, you know, calling out each of our committees and so forth, because we could say garbage in there too if we wanted to. But I kind of see that as part of health. So my suggestion was take the word safeguard and change it to secure and get rid of the redundancy. But those are my that's kind of those are my comments.
I'd like to take the conversation a little different direction, and it's more about the specificity, but I think of what Ellie was saying, and I think about, and sorry, this is my background too, but the country of Bhutan has a happiness index. So, and I'm thinking about some of the survey comments and questions we had of things that people would like to see in our community. And I don't see how we're addressing that here. So people were saying we'd like bicycle trails as an example, or we'd like to have paddle boats on the lake, or you know, whatever, or we'd like to have a snack bar. But I'm also thinking we have yoga classes, and we have maybe we might have a cooking class, and things that are addressing interests and desires, and maybe education of members of our community. And I don't see how we're addressing that here.
Let me say
Yet
this
that
about
is
that.
part of the things that we do.
Yeah.
Yes, but this is the highest level statement you have in your district. The detail, Director Bazette, did I say that right? Is it Bazette?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, is really the vision, the elements of what you do, as you point out, this should be the umbrella statement. Does it get captured here? I mean, because you could make the list, you could make the long list of services that you provide, but the intent of this is to make that focal point up to this overarching document. I mean, overarching statement of why you exist. And so you generally don't, because there's more to the strategic plan than just a mission. The mission is just where it starts, and those other things get described as appropriate if you're going to change them or upgrade them or make them better. That could be your strategy to be able to assure that this moves forward. I hope that was clear.
Sid, I see your you and Ellie's comments as being captured by the enhance the quality of life, the boats, the bike trails, the programs for our senior citizens. Those all enhance the quality of life here in our community. So that would be my comment.
So
Thank you. And I just totally agree with that. Knowing if and we've all lived here for a certain amount of time, that most of the folks here are they're senior citizens, and quite a few of them are, and they don't want to play goofy games, but there's a lot of things we are doing, which is a good thing, and can still do.
let me throw out another idea here, if I may. This feels like it goes a long way before we actually say our community. So let's do a little word reversal. Our mission is to preserve and enhance the quality of life of our community, comma, its health, safety, and well-being.
That sounds very good.
I
Yeah,
like that,
All
but
right.
I like that, Felicity, but I'd just like to add, I personally, help me understand the broader implication of the word health, because I feel like our mission to secure the community's health, I feel like that is actually a bit outside our scope. I mean, we can help secure opportunities for health, like walking trails, and we can have ordinances where we're not burning 12 months of the year, burning piles of wood to help with the air quality. But I feel like health is really, that's kind of up to the citizens and their doctors and the food they eat and things like that. So help me, I don't know, health to me seems a bit of an overreach, but if somebody can help me.
Oftentimes, people with the Rec and Park mission see that as a health mission as well.
Sure.
And that's probably what the thought was going in here.
I very much agree. I see our parks, our community services, our pool, the two that you mentioned, Felicity, burning, and even garbage. Garbage is a huge solidly under health. In my mind, public health is,
I
So-
agree, but is it securing their individual health?
Oh,
yes, we do
that's-
things that make it a
Okay.
healthier environment.
I think.
Well,
I
and there's a different definition for health, and I don't know if we need to go, deal too much in semantics, but a healthy community isn't simply about individual
Okay.
health, right?
That's,
It's also about the general culture, about the general attitude of the community and constituents.
yeah.
So I think part of our mission is to try and uplift the general sense of what does it mean to be in Cameron Park.
Okay.
So maybe that's a way to understand it, where we're not just
That
focusing
is
on
good. Yes.
my heartbeat is under 70, and that kind of thing. Does that
Mr.
help?
Chair, did I get I think I typed the words in correctly or didn't do it right. Is this correct now? Is this what you were saying? Securing its health, safety, and welfare?
I would drop securing, and I would put a hyphen in there rather than a comma.
Thank you. And you would drop securing.
I would drop securing, and I put a hyphen, not a
It's
semicolon.
health, safety. Good. That's how it should be. I think.
I don't like the hyphen.
What do you have against hyphens? They're very
It's a
useful.
hyphen.
Just put a comment. A comment
Enhance the quality.
instead of a community.
How about
Right.
including?
Yeah, I like including better.
You like what?
Including, I
Including.
like, instead of the hyphen, I'm also in favor of the word including. Or something like
All
that.
right.
To preserve and enhance quality of life for our community, including its health, safety, and welfare.
And I'll suggest well-being instead of welfare.
Community.
Yeah, I like that better.
Oh, I do too, definitely. It kind of addresses a concern I still don't think we quite have is, it's about the social
That's not bad.
connectedness.
I like that.
And maybe well-being captures that a little better. So part of it is we organize activities or events, or we should be, that bring people together.
I don't, if we
Yeah,
I
ranking,
like that, but the way that is at this moment.
so is togetherness too cute? The one of the discussions I was having with one of you, I recall, we were talking about the fact that Cameron Park doesn't have a downtown. It doesn't, I mean, well, maybe you guys see it differently than I do, but it doesn't have the central place where it gathers, where it or the city hall or that central point. And I think the discussion was revolving around how do we express the fact that we, absent the city hall downtown kind of modality, there is it even reasonable to consider that that we try to provide that. It's just a thought I remember going through my mind, or talking to one of you about being the hub of Cameron Park.
I don't see, I kind of, in my mind, I see two locations in our community as being
Okay.
the community center, the CSD, and actually Cameron Park Lake, because we do hold quite a few events here.
And also the Elks Club.
And
There's
so
a lot of events there.
yeah. And so I don't think we're raking money into a pile I think people like kind of our sleepy, nondescript script community where if you don't want to be involved, you don't have to. And we want to provide that if you can. That's all of us here. So I'm really happy with how we've modified this. I think it's an improvement.
Let me throw something out and see what you guys think. Do you want to say fire safety? Would it be better? Would it be worse? Would it be too general? I mean, would it be less general, but maybe too, just give me your thoughts.
I think that's definitely too specific because it's not
Okay.
just fire that we provide. We also have emergency services and we have an ambulance.
So just safety, yeah.
But that would be, I mean,
That
we have
hits
our
you
fire
in
staff
your
here.
health. immediately. That's when you start getting into fire safety. What's the first thing you think of? Fire. And people know that we have, well, we have two stations, 88 and 89, and they're
It,
there.
it does drill down a little bit more, and it's just a thought. I just want to make sure we had a chance to talk that through. There was something
Well,
else.
I went and burned that down, didn't I?
Well, that's
Yeah, that's a
what you're
joke.
elected to do
The coffee was good.
in this context.
Touche there, Monique.
Yeah.
So, do we need both preserve and enhance? Does one set the bar at preserve and then there's another bar that set at enhance? I mean-
The preserve is too much backward looking to me. I think enhance is more about now and the future.
Well, I would counter and simply say there's a fundamental mission we have that if all else fails, there are simple things we must do. And the rest we get to do. So for instance, right now, there's a lot we don't get to do, but there are simple things that we must preserve if all else fails. So I think it's foundation and extra. That's how I read it.
I just have a question, a point of order question.
Yes.
I see that there are some members of the public here. Are they part of this discussion now? Do we have to look for raised hands?
Thank
Or
you
is
for
this-
bringing that up, Director Carlson. The way we had proceeded before was pulling up my agenda here, that as a strategic plan workshop, we allow for a little more interaction from the public because it's not an actionable agenda item per se. So I will open it up and remind our attendees who are here, if they would like to chime in, feel free to raise your hand. We will monitor that. It would still be good to stick to the 3-minute, but we won't limit the number of comments on that as we move through each piece. So seeing 4 members of the public here, I'll invite you, if you desire to interject in this, feel free to raise your hand. And at that point, I will also ask you, Brent, is there a particular time we want to devote to this and move on to another piece? Is this something we would leave and come back to next time?
Well, this is a draft. Your mission statement is still the way it started. You get a chance to look at this a couple more times before you adopt it, or whatever you come up with, and you can let these words ruminate a little more in their order and their meaning. We do need to move on. We have other things to be able to style right now, but
Right.
I want to make sure that you all feel like we've made some progress here. I want this to be your mission statement. And so we have trimmed and redefined and or focused maybe. And if there are no comments from the public, or I think Director Bazad has another comment, but
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, we need to move on reasonably soon.
Okay. So I had just one more thought. It's again about inclusion and kind of looking at addressing the interests and needs and desires of all our citizens. And just a suggestion I'd put out there would be health, safety, and well-being of its citizens, or all of its citizens, or something to that effect, which brings kind of a more of an inclusion quality to the mission statement. So I'm just throwing out an idea.
It's not a bad idea.
So it would change that word, is that correct?
So
No, we
just
would
add
add
it to the end.
to the end.
Because it's bringing, again, it's maybe restating community. Community is kind of deliberately vague, and now it's taking it, and that includes age or owner versus renter, or whatever population you might belong to. Yeah,
Would we say residents instead of citizens?
That would be better.
I like that better. Yeah, that was my thought process. Yeah,
Good.
but I like the inclusion aspect of it.
The 2 hour, that's an active statement. bringing it, serving the residents.
Health, safety, and well-being of our state.
Yeah.
I think the sentence is a little grammatically challenged. I will say that. But I think I like where it's going.
Yes.
I like it pretty much the way it is. I mean, we don't have to go into the, Declaration of Independence here. We're kind of just looking for missions.
That did take a lot of time and heartache to
Well,
craft.
it's like the its is the problem. What if you eliminated its?
No, it's
Is that required?
Our community, including.
What, Brad, if I can suggest, it sounds like this might be a good point for us to let it sit and come back to. You say we're going to get another couple looks at it?
Oh yeah. You're not adopting it tonight. You're just saying, hey, no, I put the date up there, and the next time we look at it, you'll have time with it. Again, I'm going to send you the slides after we're done this evening that we dealt with this evening. You'll have it to look at as a draft.
But I'd like you to put its back. Well, if you read it this way and then read it the other way and tell me what you think, that's how we'll go with it.
Well, recognizing that we will come back and see this again at least one more time.
Yeah.
Amen.
I only got the last word in.
Yes.
I will just confirm with our community, our attendees, that
Sure.
there's any input they want to give. I don't see any raised hands. I want to make sure that there's an opportunity for them to speak into this. Otherwise, unless there's any pressing piece of this, would it be okay to step to our next one?
Let's go. Thank you. Good job, board. Values. If you thought mission was difficult, think of values, because we don't have any stated values. Values are your decision filters. In other words, when you pick up your agenda packet every time, you apply a set of intrinsic values to those decisions as a board. You look at things from the standpoint of this, that, and the other thing, depending on who you are. I always look for this in the action item. Does it meet this or that? Things to which you're fiercely dedicated, things to which that you feel are always going to be important as you make decisions as a board. And so as you meld those, you're going to have 5 or 6 values that are going to be important. These are also important to the staff as they look at the challenges and opportunities out there in front of them. They'll know, hey, it's one of our values to do this or do that. So this is an open discussion. These things are. Remember, we usually do this when we're all together and we're all in a room and we're there for 3 or 4 hours. So we're taking this in incremental chunks. So you can do this. You just need to, somebody needs to start.
I'll start.
Okay, thank you.
Is it redundant to say, does it meet our mission?
Yes.
It is. Okay. Because that would be the obvious filter, is that does it fit within the mission?
You can couch them, though. Very good point. You can say, does it? Is it? For instance, somebody brought up the Rotary Club. They have the 4-way test. Well, no, I guess you brought the Elks. But you brought some, if you talk about if you've ever been a Rotarian, you know that there's a 4-way test. Does it do this? Does it do that? Does it, is it fair and equitable? Those kinds of things. I can't remember. It's been too long. But you can, just as you did, you can write your values that way.
So that would be my first comment.
Looking at the Cameron Park CSD strategic plan folder
Okay.
and the second from the last, what makes Cameron Park a special place to live? Please check the items that you feel are currently true of Cameron Park. And it goes all the way down for values, and it gives you the percentage.
Okay. I don't know that I'd seen that.
Okay, I think it's a survey question, right, Ellie? That's one of our survey questions.
Cameron Park CSD Strategic Plan, Board Planning Workshop. Yeah,
Bear with me, and Director Scobie, I know you've got, is it that? Is it this page?
no. It's
No.
much easier.
Well, and so I'm not,
That's all right.
I
So
think it's probably the report that was sent on Friday. Is it like 23 pages or something, Ellie?
okay, I am so sorry. I do have a value statement here from you guys to start with. This is probably the next, yeah, I should have had something that pointed to this. So from your interviews, these are what I picked up on. So we can start with these and whittle them. But Director Scobie, I think you were next in terms of does it, or when I got you off track. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I didn't know if it was redundant or not to make sure it fit within our mission. I thought that was important. I'm also like to be short, so not short, but concise and not be too wordy. Less is more, someone said. So if we don't need to put that down, I think one of the things, I'm not sure if it made it on here, but we need to serve our diverse community. So there might be, we have, okay, inclusion. Yes, that would manage, that would be important because not everyone's going to want to do everything that we offer, but we need to have enough that we, can cover the, when we make our decisions, if there's a group that's left out, we need to see if there's some way to include them. So yeah, I like that inclusion. That was the other good. And then of course you have up there in the top, the sustainability, which I think is important. And I see sustainability as a very generic word because it can be applied to so many things. In this case, it looks like it's being applied to financial stability. But I also think that I brought up in our last board meeting about environmental sustainability, which I think is important that we have that discussion at some point. And I think it's an appropriate as a values discussion. I sent there is sustainability policies. I went on to the CSDA and I started drilling through some of their kind of like what Eric did when he was going through the GM review questions. I did that to see if I could find us kind of like a template that we could start with. And I found one with the El Dorado County, and they had one that actually was tied directly to financial, and that you would, they were talking about a 2%. I sent it to Jill, but I don't know if that's probably way too in the weeds right now. But I do think that's something that I think as a board we need to discuss at some point. But I think discussing these are good, and I like to hear from my fellow board members.
This is Felicity. So I'm just wondering if some of these items are values and some of them are goals, and if they're different.
They're different values.
The thing about values, goals are something you're going to do. You're going to do something specifically to reach something specific.
Yeah.
You're going to goals that are measurable, goals that are achievable, goals that can be. The values are what you're always going to be dedicated. You're always going to take these into account as you make decisions. So financial stability. One of the first things I know I always did when I opened our agenda packet is, what's this going to cost? Or how can we afford it? There's even a financial analysis with almost every thing. And so all of you mentioned financial stability or call it financial stewardship, financial sustainability. All three are at one. It is a value of yours.
You need the money to keep it going.
Well, you do. The question about that is relative to these other things, like transparency is a value. I mean, it's good to say that. It's required now. but it's good to say that we are really indeed fierce guardians of transparency or openness. This one, for instance, though, is part of your mission. It's part of what you do. It's not intuitive with your mission statement, but it is, as you talked about it earlier. It's part of your mission. But these things like transparency and inclusion, vision is good, but remember, these are just what I picked up from my discussions with you. Needs are part of what you do. You do want to meet the needs. You want to be able to assess the needs and meet the needs as best you can. Board performance, is that something you all are dedicated to? Public and stakeholder relations came up a lot from you all. But is that really that? I think is going to be almost its own focus area, the communications to your public and the relationships with your stakeholders. So that will probably be covered in the detail. Fire prevention. So really what you need to do with this list is take the things out you don't want and then make sure you cover all the things you do. So
What do you mean by inclusion?
inclusion is we make sure that every decision we make thinks about all of those we serve. And these do need some words. And once you all decide on what they are, part of what staff is going to do is put some words together to try to describe them. Not very long, maybe a sentence or two. So there will be more to visions. We just need to get the list relatively close now.
And I can elaborate on inclusion. It could mean, for example, that we are, of course, we need to legally, but that it's in our values to ensure that there's ADA accessibility, parking, ADA accessible trails in our community for people who use wheelchairs. That would be an example of thinking in a way that's inclusionary of our community. Another example would be,
Inclusion?
what's that?
Most people would think of that as inclusion.
I'm just giving I was the one that put in inclusion, and these are my thoughts on it. So it could be worded differently if it doesn't make sense to people. But another example would be if we had, I don't know what the numbers are, but if we had knowledge that there's a subset of our community that isn't fluent in English, is it big enough of a subset? Do we need to ensure that our website or our materials are in a different language? Or that the signs at the parks are in a different language, or our safety materials are in a different language? Is that something that that we need to think about? So for me, that would be inclusion, instead of just ignoring elements of the community that aren't exactly like me. So that was my thoughts.
It's worth probably differentiating too. There are active values, things that we do already that we want. This gets back to the preserve and enhance, right? Active values, things that we are doing and we want to continue doing as a value. And then there's aspirational values. These are things we want to be. And we might be partway there, but we want to continue moving toward that. That opens it up enough that the list can get a little longer, but I think we can still focus it. So, we talk about public and stakeholder relations. You can make a statement like saying, we value active engagement with our residents and partners. We value that. We have some of that now. We want to continue to do that more. So that would be something we're trying as well as aspiring to.
It's nice, perhaps, we value overarching that what things do you value? As you said, maybe you say something different there, as you pointed out, aspirationally. The same goes for financial and fire prevention. these are the things we value. A lot of agencies write their values that way too.
I really like what Director Carlson said regarding inclusion. I think that should be part of our values. We might need to add some more words there. I also like what Eric said about public and stakeholder relations. I think it just needs to be more clear and stated as a value is that, we value and search for, reach out, whatever those proper words are to our community. And, not a lot of people know what stakeholder. I only came across stakeholder when I got this position. Most people don't know what that means. Or maybe it's just me being an engineer and having my head in the sand. Um, so something I think also we might want to consider is making sure these words are understandable to everybody and having a little more description, or maybe maybe they can get too wordy. I also agree on the trained and civil board performance. I think now that we've had this discussion, I understand where these things are coming from. I think they need to be stated as a value, and then maybe we would do better. With the CCNRs, I feel like that is one of the things that we do, and they are very important to us. They actually are reflected in our mission. But I don't think that when we make a decision, we're going to apply the filter, does this help our well-managed CCNRs? I kind of see that as it's definitely a service that we provide, but I don't know if it's the overarching value that we would use to apply to all of our decisions and policies that we make. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just
No,
saying.
no.
No, that
And if I could follow up on there, Monique, just to reinforce your statement, perhaps some of these we have to not look at it, but look backward from it one step. Well-managed CCRs are meant to do what? There's a value behind that. And it has to do perhaps with the beauty of our community or
property.
Property value or whatever it is that we attach, what value we attach to that. So maybe that's where we're going, because you're right. CCNR is a service, but we don't value it just because it exists. We value it because it does something.
All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just wanted to support your statement there.
And let's just take financial as an example of how you'd like to have it stated, because we really haven't we talked about it, but not directly. And I don't even know if you want that as a value. I just know that you and I individually talked a lot about we value finance. I mean, do you need to say all that, or what do you really want to say about? Let's use it as an example and write one, and then if we keep the list or we delete or we add to the list, we'll use that as an example of how you'd like for us to bring back the rest of them. Will that work?
I didn't really grasp everything you've said.
Okay, let's just talk about this one.
Financial stability. Okay.
I think we're looking for input on the concepts. If you guys agree on some concepts, is that it, Brent? If you guys
concept of expression, as
Yeah.
Eric was pointing out. I'm sorry, Director. I'm sorry, Chair. As you were pointing out, you had a way that you would like to see the values expressed, and so did some other board members. Can we just take one of them as an example, write it out, make sure the list is complete as it can be tonight, and then when we come back to the next iteration of the strategic plan, we will have some proposed language in that style?
Okay.
So Brent, I think the word stewardship actually encapsulates everything, because the stewardship is taking care of what you have. So I think you could start with stewardship and then say, what, if anything, do you need to add? And assets, in my mind, could be that building that you don't let the roof leak, or that truck that needs to be replaced, or something like that. Financial maybe is more about the budgets, but that's just the way my brain works. But I think the stewardship encapsulates everything really well. So maybe we're starting with that.
Okay.
And it's kind of a concept I know with churches and clubs and so forth. Stewardship is taking care of what you have.
True.
I like the concept of looking forward for our financial, when we make a financial decision, how is it going to affect our district in the future? So is it something that we're not going to be able to sustain and pay for? You know, we won't be able to pay for operationally. So I guess for me, financial stability is more of a financial projection.
Yeah, it's a 5-year strategic plan. You want to be on similar or better standing in 5 years than than you are now.
Today, yeah.
But what is the decision? What is the value here? We want to make sure that we're financially stable. Is that really the value?
That's the
Stewardship
key.
is the way you do it. Sustainability is a means by which you make decisions. Is it sustainable? Can you continue in the long run with this? Just to discuss it more.
Would the value be to stay within our, not running negative budgets, and being able to fund our reserves? Is that a value?
That's a stability.
I'm going to suggest that that's an action step rather than a value. You value financial stability by doing those things.
The mean by which, and so is stewardship in that sense.
Right. Yeah.
So what would the statement say if it were just that? Oops. If it were just that, we value financial stability. Is that enough, or do you want it expressed in a different way?
And what was the end of that statement?
Okay. Let me see if I can get it back.
While you're pulling that up, I'll remind our public that if they want to interject here, please raise your hand. We're happy to call on you.
That wasn't it.
That wasn't it, yeah.
That was the second one.
Melissa, if you help me keep track of that too, please.
You're right, Ellie. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye out, Eric.
That's the way I just took my notes down. This is what was there.
What about financial stability and sustainability? Is that too off the wall?
That doesn't address that taking care of what you got.
Well, that's keeping what you got, sustainability.
No. And that might be a different value then, rather than
That
lumping
could
together
explain it,
finances and assets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, this isn't a decision. We're just working it.
Of course, don't worry about it.
How about you could just say stable and sustainable finances?
Sit.
What was the first? I'm sorry.
If we're talking, let's just use those words. We value stable and sustainable finances.
Stable and sustainable finances.
It's clear.
That makes sense to me.
That actually, I'm glad you stated it that way. That does kind of clear things up.
That's
overall
the same
part.
thing I wanted to say.
But
That's
it
good.
doesn't address the assets part, which could be human assets as well as things like buildings and equipment.
Would it be something, I like where you're going with that, Director Bezet, would it be something like responsible stewardship of our
Yeah, there you go.
assets?
Yeah, I like the stewardship, and the responsible puts a quality on it, or value quality.
So responsible stewardship of the district's assets or something like that.
Yeah.
Responsible asset management. I like that.
Do we want to put in human and physical? Do we want to call out our
I
I don't think so.
our staff as an asset? I mean, because they
Well-
are. We invest in them. We train them. We do rely on them heavily.
And it is could be part of stewardship as well. Just protecting what you got
Just
taken
one
care of.
moment.
Let's
I'll try
go
that.
back to what the public will understand.
Yeah.
It is a little of a nuance, but the fact is that you've got facilities and you've got money, you've got human capital, and you've got equipment, and in your case, you have property, and so those are your assets. And I know it's hard to look at your employees as simply another asset box. But in the wonky terms of public management, that really is how it is. And they're an asset worth investing in just as much as your aquatic center or your senior center or your community center. And you could list that, but that's just the way I view it, to be able to keep an even relationship with board members and the assets. You tell your manager, here is the public's money, go forward and make the highest use of our assets, including our people. Now, it doesn't mean you can't put a value in here that says we value our, just take the one asset out. We really value our employees who work hard for us every day or something like that. But a lot of agencies put that in, that it's a standalone value to recognize and invest in that asset.
So my only suggestion for that second phrase there would be responsible stewardship of district assets, and
yeah.
leave the management out of there, because to me, stewardship is the same thing as management.
Well, and the management is as much a function for the staff as it is for the board at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. So we added a new one, that responsible stewardship of district assets. When you pick up your packet, is that one of the questions you're going to ask yourself?
Definitely. I love that.
Yeah, I think so.
That's why I asked the question. And if that's true, then that's good. That it is a value of yours.
Mm-hmm.
But
because
well stated.
I'm gonna, if you only had the first value, stable and sustainable finances, you could let go of all the physical assets, drive Mike crazy, and let all the roofs leak and all the walls leak and the floors leak, and you just let the district assets go to heck, but you didn't spend any money, so maybe your finances are in good shape. But that's part of our values. Is also, I think we're doing it a lot these days. We're really shoring up a lot of our assets, that it's just been enough time that they really need it.
So is that responsible stewardship?
I think so.
No. So let's hear what our general manager has to say. Sorry, Jill. What do you think about that one?
So while everyone was talking, I wrote down, there are 6 words I wrote down. And the 6 words I wrote down that I think you could apply to any service that we do. You could apply it to your human asset. You could apply it to your garbage collection. You could apply it to anything. So here's my 6 words that I wrote down: sustainability, stewardship, forward thinking, collaboration, professionalism, inclusion.
See, now we know why you're the manager.
I like those. I think we can use
Me too.
many of those. I feel like we're kind of on a roll. I want to move on to the next bullet item and make a suggestion that we say, we value fire prevention and safety.
And that's just one of your things, one of your mission related tasks,
It is, but I do think it is, I think I didn't add, I had you remove the as a priority because the fact it's bubbled up to this values statement makes it a priority by being listed specifically.
Well,
You
and
know,
I'm sorry, General Manager, go ahead.
it's all right. I just, you are calling out one service of the community services district. And I would just, I would acknowledge that. And yes, that's very important, but it's one aspect of the district.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point, because I think if we're going to be, and I absolutely value fire prevention and safety is number one, but I think we'd kind of need to have a bit, maybe more of an even hand and say, okay, we also value our CCNRs and our recreation programs, and I don't know. I kind of, I see your point, Joe.
First one's safety. That's why I like that.
There's safety that we address every day, Ellie, in our park system, at the community center. I mean, and the safety goes, there's a lot of aspects to safety.
And it's worth saying that this isn't the last step. We have mission, we have values. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, but there's another piece where we call this out a little more specifically.
We do. Well, with that, these, then we get to strategic focus areas, things that we're looking out into the future and saying, based on all this, we know the next 5 years we're going to be challenged with this. We're going to mitigate these risks. We're going to take on these projects, and they're going to be focus areas. Some will revolve around specific pieces, but this one in particular is, remember the CCNRs were there as a singular part of what you do. This one is here as a singular part. Now, look, if it's a value of yours, board members, to call this out, that's something you can do. But if it really is something that you're going to continue, you're going to move on to certain actions related to fire prevention and safety in your focus areas, then you're demonstrating that. I don't know that you have any actions to do in this area. I mean, I know you've got a contract, you work within the confines of that contract. You also do other things, but I don't think I know them all. But if this is one of the primary focuses of your district, then you're certainly welcome to call it out. It came up enough times for me to put it here. But you all, as General Manager points out, you all are calling out one of the services that this community services district performs.
So I kind of see what you guys are saying here. You know, we list all of the things that we do, we value. I mean, it's not just one. All of the things that we do as a district are important. So we could, in a generic term, say that we value all of them, or we realize that these services that we provide belong somewhere other than the values statement, is what I'm hearing.
And yeah, I think clarify that these values for the most part, and tell me if I'm wrong, Brent, these are things that should be applicable almost across the board. You could apply this to just about everything you do. So stable and sustainable finances, that has an effect on our fire prevention and safety, right? But it also has an impact on our community center. It has an impact on LLADs and CCNRs. Responsible stewardship of district assets. Again, that points to fire prevention and safety, a number of other things. So, and I'm torn here too, because fire prevention is one of our core things. Other things could drop. We can't lose that. However, that can be captured in some of the larger values that we're trying to get here.
Yeah, I go back to my comments, like when we apply that filter to the values, with the CC&Rs, I said, is everything we do, is it going to go through the CC&R filter? And that,
Right.
does it keep our seat? Would we do the same with fire
Right.
and prevention and safety?
Right.
So I'm thinking not, I think it definitely is something that's important to us, that we serve, that we spend a lot of money on, that we want to continue, that's a priority, but I don't know if it belongs here after this discussion.
So something like property values, preserving property values is something that affects all of the aspects of the community services district. It was reflective of CCNRs. It's reflective of our parks and how great parks drive property values. Having 2 fire stations keeps insurance rates low. So it's those kinds of values that I think you're looking for, that kind of cross all of the different services that we have. So with that, since I have the floor, Brent, what I'd like to do is maybe give you a 10, 15-minute warning, because we have another business item to go to.
That's fine. We'll do this incrementally as needed, guys. I'm here for the duration of getting your strategic plan done. And so it takes longer doing it on Zoom, but the discussions we're having are very, very good. It's good that you all 5 are here to talk these things over. So let's take the time necessary, but thank you for that heads up, and I'll see how far we can get here. So we just replaced fire safety. Was only there. Remember, the only reason it was there is because all of you brought it up in one way or another. You all talked to us. Well, that's certainly some of the things we do a lot, and some of the things we really value in doing correctly, and that's why we're so engaged in the contract. And now, instead, what you've actually added is preserving property values. How do you all feel about that one?
That makes me a little uncomfortable, just being that, we represent people, whether they're property owners or not. It just makes me feel like now I'm as an elected official kind of weighing toward, like, really more accountable to people that are landowners, and that makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
So maybe we back that up, because again, property values is something, there's a value behind that. We want a well-maintained community or something like that, because that's the issue, is it's how does our community look and feel? So maybe there's something we can capture that addresses that, but is more inclusive, because how our community looks affects whether you own property or not. For all of the people in our community that rent,
CCNRs.
and that could involve CCNRs, right? We wouldn't have to call out CCNR, but that then becomes what does it. That's the action piece.
That makes sense to me. As you're saying, Eric, going back and saying, what does that actually mean? And you're saying, how does our community look? And also, is how safe is it? Actually, when I've been talking to residents, they actually say, preserve our property values. I probably could say at least 10, 20% bring that up.
That's CCNRs.
Yeah. And the other thing they bring up is, crime. So I kind of see that, as you're saying, is kind of an upper value of what that's representing. And incorporating what Felicity's saying is that we don't want to just cater to property owners. I mean, less than, I don't know what percentage of our community is actually property owners, but we know it's not 100%. So we want to be inclusive. And I agree with Felicity on that. We don't want to just cater to property owners.
It sounds a little exclusive.
Yeah.
On the other hand, every property belongs to somebody. And so every community wants this. Every city, every jurisdiction, sure, you want to preserve their property values. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do it. saying it as one of your values it just feels exclusive. To me, it's not a problem to put it in there. It's certainly up to you, but I understand what Director Carlson's saying about the way that feels.
So I just want to add, while we apparently we all agree that fire prevention and protection is a priority for the district. We just don't know if it fits in the values statement, but having taken that out because it's going to be in another part of this 5-year strategic planning process beginning, do we have to replace it with something else? I mean, I feel like we're kind of grasping at straws right now to come up with something here, whereas there's already like 6 more
We
line
don't have,
items for
this is something
discussion.
that was just thrown out there and we put in, and
Yeah.
we can do this just as easily and not deal with that. It depends on if it's a value of yours or not. Remember, this set belongs to you. If it is a value, we might have to think about how to say it so it doesn't leave people with the wrong impression, which we just thought it might, or there was some sentiment that it might. So let's leave it and discuss it for next time.
Okay, good.
Let me put it in red or maybe yellow, whichever you prefer, but it's something we can discuss next time. It's not cast in concrete. What about this public and stakeholder relations? We value our relations. Who would you like to word?
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Engage. We value public engagement, and I really want to replace stakeholder. And maybe it's just me. I can totally be talked out of it, but
I'm with you.
If we go with the verb, Monique, because I hear where you're going. If it's we value responsible, we value engagement with our residents and partners. As partners can,
yeah, I like partners better. Yeah. Partners can be, we have all different, as a board, we discussed all the different type of partners that we have. I think that's a good catch-all for, clubs and different agencies and different contractors, and it's more inclusive. We're together, we're partners, we're buds.
This came up a lot from 2 or 3 of you, that your dependencies on good partnerships at those that work with you to get things done, because many times you can't do it all yourself, or you need someone else to help to approve or to be thinking about you when they're making decisions. So I think something in there. You don't have to put our. You can just say partners if you'd like.
Well, it seems like we're not.
I'm sorry, Monique.
I was just going to say the engagement, it needs to be public. We value public and partner engagement, or we need to add another verb in front of partners, because it's just like we value our partners. No, we want to interface and interact with them. We want to we want to communicate with them.
We value engagement with the public and our partners.
Yes.
That sounds good.
That pulls together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Needs is really the next one. That's the core word here. We value the needs. We assess the needs. We go out and find out what the needs are before we try spending a lot of money or spending a lot of time on something. Is that a value of yours? Do you always go back to that and say, is this something that the public is calling for? Now, you can't always poll everything, right? You 5 in many cases are determining this, but that's just the only.
If I can suggest here,
Yes.
I'm going to say that should get caught up in engagement with the public and our partners. If we're engaging, we're going to know what the needs are.
True engagement will
Represent what we hear.
Anybody object to me taking that off?
No.
No, because an additional argument for taking it off is, in an economic downturn, most of the community might not be able to afford their day-to-day expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a real need in the community, but that's actually outside of our
scope.
purview.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
we're kind of already established what we do. And if we identify new needs, that could lead us astray outside of our core mission. But we do need to stay engaged to know specifically within the mission what the needs are.
Yeah, that's a big word.
Yeah.
All right. What about this board performance piece? A number of you brought that up.
I'll take a stab at that. I
All
think
right.
it means civility, that you've got civil in there, respect, that and training. I mean, that too. So I see that as there's two things there, and it's not just board. It's how we interface with everybody. It's the public, it's our partners, it's our contractors, it's our community that I see as we need, for the civil part, that we need to be professional, we need to be sensitive, we need to be inclusive. And then there's the training part. I actually see those as two. There's my comments.
I'm going to say that while I think this is incredibly important and we've made strides and we need to keep going, I actually think this goes in a different part of what we're doing for the 5-year plan. I think it's more like a strategy or a goal, or
It can be. There are a number of things you can do to show how valuable it is to you, but not make it the one of your core values.
Yes.
Well, and this again goes back to the altitude thing. Our mission is 30,000 feet. This is 15,000 feet. So maybe what we have here is we value transparent and ethical leadership, because that addresses board, that addresses staff.
it doesn't necessarily address, though, the civility and the training that is really helpful. I mean, you can be transparent and ethical, but still not have gotten a lot of training.
Right.
And
I guess I'm saying I'm being careful because training is a little more specific.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And that feels a little closer to the ground than
Yeah.
There can be it really, the leadership is, from the board's viewpoint, leadership includes probably who? I mean, senior staff, Jill and you. You guys have to understand what that means. Transparent, ethical, and well-trained leaders are something every jurisdiction needs. Every public agency, all of the public expects and hopes to have. So you could put well-trained in there and not be too far off.
That sounds good. See what it looks like with the well-trained.
We also can use
Parent and well-trained.
we can also use the word professional. That kind of encompasses civility.
No,
I like
that won't work.
Does it or not?
So instead of professional is a term that's thrown around a lot, but it's more people see the word professional and they think different things. From this discussion, we know what we're talking about there. And
what about just transparent and well-trained leadership? Do you need that ethical in there?
I think the ethical assumes that you've done something wrong, like you've stolen monies or inappropriate relationships or something. I don't think ethical fits. I think
I don't
professional is
either.
about decorum. Isn't that what we're talking about?
I think transparent and well-trained leadership.
I mean, I don't know, you guys, this is well-trained, sounds like a dog, first of all, but I
Ethical
have a,
doesn't sound much better.
I
Well, that's right.
actually don't think that we should use a professional, because our staff are definitely professional, but the whole point to me of the community running for office and voting for people is that they are members of the community. They don't need to be a professional. And sorry, Director Scobie, absolutely. Just this anyway, they don't have to be a professional engineer. They don't have to be a professional finance manager. They are a member of the community, whether they're the mom from the PTA board or whatever. So
We're not saying professional.
no, I know, but somebody else suggested it. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know. And well-trained is, and the thing is, you want, if somebody gets elected and they have no training, that's fine. It's more that we want to offer the opportunity of training. You know, they don't have to be trained before they join the board. I mean, I guess, but that's a value, is that we're like, okay.
That doesn't look right to me.
So
like that
board,
either.
what I'd like to say is that the staff and I have been in stakeholder meetings. And in our stakeholder meetings, we have gotten feedback about our current board, and which has been really positive. And so I think you need to take a look at, you know, the board and how you're operating now culturally, and the respect, the collaboration, for lack of a better word, professionalism, the wanting to work together to govern, and being held accountable for the actions that the board has taken. That wasn't so 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. And so I think that the intent of what you're trying to do, and I don't know if this is going to help you, but I think I think the staff would like, and I think you would like to somehow say something about maintaining the current culture that you have now. And I'm not really sure how to say that, but I think it's important that it's said, because it sets the expectations for future board members and future staff, leadership staff that are going to be working here.
I threw the words in there just to have a discussion around them, but
I like that.
we kind of leave the other one hanging a little bit. But respectful collaborative board leadership is rare in my world. In my world, I've worked with 3 boards today, and 2 of them really struggle with that. You aren't the one of those 2. You guys are working together to get this done.
Yes.
And so that's respectful, that's collaborative, that respect word is huge, because one of the outcomes of respect is collaboration. It's just so valuable when you've got it. You want to propagate that. You want to move that in the future, and you want to document it and lock it in, that the cultures of the board at CPCSD, this is just the way we do things here. It's a value of ours.
I
like
really like
I like that.
the respectful and collaborative, but I don't think we need to just put it just on the board. I mean, don't we want to do that when we're engaging with our partners and we're engaging with the community, engaging with the staff? To me, it should be respectful, collaborative communications, and that's capturing our value for our entire culture.
But
So
relationships,
what if we say relationship there?
relationships is what I was going to say.
Relationships.
And what if we say respectful, responsible, and collaborative relationships? Or you can just leave it respectful and collaborative, but I'm thinking of throwing that responsible too.
Yeah, I like it. We value respectful, collaborative relationships right there.
Okay. There, you won.
Or just to show you how that comes across, it defocuses off the board. It's okay. It's fine. It's yours to leave here. But if the board, as Jill pointed out, if if the current board is being hailed as the model, congratulations. Understand that yes, you're right here, but if you wanted to be specific, and it doesn't sound like you do, then you're broadening that term.
And maybe we put leadership back in, just leadership, because then that focuses a little more. Relationships goes out beyond us. But what I liked about putting respectful there and collaborative and responsible is that sets a standard for us to hold to as well. Not just that we're there, but we want to stay there. And there's an accountability in that if we make it a value. So people can remind us, hey, this is who you say you want to be.
Yeah.
I think you want to lead by example.
Yeah. So if we put that on leadership rather than just on every relationship, that puts some onus back on us. And I think that's good.
And those that you
like that.
are expecting the same out of, in it doesn't mean it doesn't go to everybody. I understand it's true that all our relationships we want to be respectful and collaborative. In this particular case where you have the ball and you are setting a standard in some respects, it does now you focus just a little bit more here with that word.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about it. Let's not just let it.
Put the leadership in there because it looks correct to me.
I have a question for Jill. When you were, or any of the staff for that matter, has it been focused? Has this feedback been focused on for the board? Is that something that we, as a board, really need to hear, or do you think in your mind leadership would work?
It could be with both.
I think that there has been specific comments about the board today versus board in the past. But I think also there was some conversation about the district and how the district has changed. And so I think that is reflective of the change in staffing here and the cultural change as well. So it's been both. Conversation. But I think that you have to remember that you're the boss. You're the boss of the district, and so people do look up to you. I think that the community is looking up to you and seeing you as the boss of the district, and that you are the board that is leading the charge now. And I think that that's really awesome. That community groups and stakeholders are seeing you all in action.
Okay.
And with that, Brent, is this a good wrapping up point?
Yeah, almost.
Almost, okay.
Just a few more minutes.
Yeah, if we
if
can
you
take
don't
just a
mind.
few more minutes because we do have some other business we need to get to.
Sure. Inclusion. What more can we say there? I mean, in light of how you're communicating these, you can stop with that. You can put a period there if you want.
I'll take a stab. And this is definitely a stab. This is not a final. I can already feel that. But we value making decisions that include the broad community. Just, do you guys see what I'm trying to say?
All members of the community?
Yeah. That are I don't want to use cognizant. Because we can have a feedback. What do you call that? A self-feedback chamber. We can make decisions just based on the people we already talked to. But because we haven't engaged with other people, we are just not making decisions that include the other people we're not engaged with. So
Can we say we value the variety in our community, or some phrase like that? Because it recognizes that it's there.
Are you talking about diversity?
Yeah, the diversity of our community.
Well, I think we'd value serving them. Maybe not, I mean,
Maybe there it is, Monique. We value serving the diversity in our community, or the diverse something in our community. The only caution there becomes sometimes we can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And so,
And,
well,
and if
I mean,
there's,
that's our job as the board, is to make those decisions within the other values. I mean, if it's going to drive us bankrupt and we're serving 3 people, you know, that's
Right.
not a good decision.
right. No, I was thinking the exact same example.
how about serving the diverse makeup of our community?
I like that better.
Do you have a
That's
different,
better.
do you have a different diverse makeup than other communities?
Actually, we do.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, every community is different. We're
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, is there something specific that I don't know?
we're pretty standard.
Well, we have a more elderly community than most in California, where our median income is higher than most in California.
We have a high education rate, a high intact family rate. So we are unique.
And is that something you take into account?
That looks good. Serving the diverse makeup of the community.
Of I'd say our community, because we've used our language in previous lines.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Vision was,
I like that.
remember, it's all in red, really, but that one in particular, we're going to really come back and noodle. But this one, that's just something that came up. We value vision, looking into the future, projecting positive, the best possible positive outcome for our residents. That's endemic in your vision statement. I mean, your mission statement already. But it came up, so I put it here. Is anybody a big fan of vision? We value vision. We value projection.
I kind of feel like we've did that with
Covered
all
it.
our other statements, actually.
That's I agree.
I don't know. I see the vision as being what we're doing right now, doing this
True.
5-year strategic plan. I see it as redundant, unless
That's
I'm missing
a good
something
point.
else. I don't know what it means.
I'm the one that put it in there, and Director Scobie, and I completely agree with you. That's what we're doing now with the 5-year plan.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much, board. We'll be back.
Before we wrap that up, Brent, just one last opportunity for our community members who
Yes.
haven't seen any hands, but just want to recognize that they're here. Appreciate that. Anybody who wants to chime in before we pause on this until next time. You see any hands?
I don't see
Okay,
any hands
don't see
either.
any hands.
Thank you for your respectful and collaborative leadership, board.
Thank you, Brent.
Thanks, Brent.
I'll hand it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And we will look forward to further conversations on this. And I'm no General Manager, you'll let us know when those happen.
And Brent, I think I'll have you stop sharing. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
And I am going to take my leave.
Okay, thanks, Brent.
I'll send these slides out to you, and Jill, you can forward them.
You think we can take a 10-minute break now?
How about a
How about a 5?
I'll put that to the board.
How about a
Would we
5-minute
take a
break?
5-minute break?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, we will call a recess for 5 minutes. We'll set a timer. We'll expect you all back. Please, thank you for your participation. We'll see you in a few minutes. General Manager, are we ready to resume? And I think you're muted.
We are ready to move ahead, and some of the staff are hanging on, just to get through the mid-year, but I don't think that this should take too long from here on out, so.
Okay. All right, and I apologize, Alyssa. I neglected to ask you to go ahead and pause the recording. So there'll be about a 5-minute bit of silence and motion there for the public recording. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
you're good. I paused it and you're good to go now.
Great, thank you. All right, we will resume our Board of Directors meeting, and we'll continue on with our agenda for the evening. We finished up our workshop, and now we move on to the approval of the consent agenda. So do I have any questions or comments from board or public on the consent agenda, or a motion?
A point of order, I just so I remember from a previous meeting, so like somebody makes a motion, somebody might second it, then it could be discussion with public or the board, and then it could be a vote. I think that's right.
My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, council, is that board members we don't have to make a motion on it before we can ask to remove or et cetera.
That's right. You can have that conversation first, and then the motion can include what's removed. Excuse me, not necessarily need to, but you can.
And thank you. I didn't mean to say like let's not discuss it now. I just meant if a motion in a second happens, there could still be discussion afterwards too.
Correct.
So with that in mind, I'm going to move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Carlson and a second by
Of
Director
December 16th.
second by Director Wooden. General Manager, would you do roll call, please?
Director Easton?
Aye.
Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette? Is Sid
Yeah,
here?
He's here, but you're
He's
muted. Sid.
Sid, you're muted.
Aye.
Thank you, Sid.
Thank you.
Director Scobie
Aye.
and Director Wooten.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, thank you, board. And it's worth affirming that forgotten mute is often much better than an unforgotten unmuted. So,
Good point.
so well done, Sid.
Thank you.
All right, now we move on to general business. No items are moved from the consent agenda, so we move to our one item on general business tonight, which is to approve fiscal year 2021 fiscal year mid-budget adjustments. So at that point, I'll hand that over to General Manager and to Vicki.
So staff is moving forward with a recommendation to adjust the budget. And most of our adjustments are related to COVID. Our goal was to preserve the structure of the district as we move through COVID, so that in a few months, we're hoping 6 months to 8 months, as we emerge out of COVID, our staff structure is here and we can get things up and running and the community re-engaged very quickly. This recommendation is supported by the Budget and Admin Committee. We did have quite a bit of conversation at the Budget and Admin Committee. Staff went back and did some, re-looking at a couple of items related to their input. And so this is what you're gonna see now is the product of both of our work. Our budget is going to end us with a positive position of about $20,000. That is mostly related to revenues not received in fiscal year 1920 that are being received in fiscal year 2021. A lot of that is the California Climate Investment Grant, even though the fire department was very diligent about billing for our expenses related to the Climate Investment Fuel Reduction Program. Those revenues didn't come in until the following, fiscal year. So our revenues overall were reduced by almost $400,000, $381,000, largely due to our inability to operate recreation programs and also the closure of the community center, or at least most of the community center, the assembly hall primarily. Gym has been up and down and the pool has been operating. So our expenditures were reduced by $399,000. And what we tried to do with this budget is to move around resources. And I think that we did that pretty well. I'm not going to go through, there's a bulleted list in the report. I know that you've all read it. that kind of describes some of the things that we have adjusted and how, some of the resources that we've moved around. But let me hit a few highlights for you that are a little unique. We are recommending that 1/3 of that the CCNR fund to support 1/3 of the receptionist position. This has not occurred in the past, though the receptionist does dedicate a large port. And when I talked to our receptionist, she said up to 1/3 of her time is spent with CCNR and architecture review. And so it is appropriate that that fund help offset some of those costs. And we're recommending that for this year. This is not we're not recommending a change for future years. We're just recommending that during COVID and to help out the general fund, it would be appropriate to have the CCNR fund help fund the receptionist position. Our California Climate Investment Grant funds have also increased. One, as I talked later about funds that were not received in 1920, but are expected to receive in this current fiscal year. Also, there are additional projects that were fuel reduction projects that we're working on, and also an additional mailer. So there are some increases because we're doing more with the grant program. Recreation has eliminated almost all of their programming, their activity guide, and have kept just kind of just a little bit of money to do the virtual recreation center and some aquatics programs. Also, the community center has laid off all of their year-round part-time staff that supported the operations here. The funding for our grant writer, we've reduced that. Our recreation supervisor, Whitney, who's with us, is writing grants, and the grant writer is advising us, which has been a good use of resources. And she has been available to us and is guiding us on these applications. Park services have been reduced, and I think that this was a difficult decision and recommendation that we're making. We're doing so to respond to the lack of revenues at our district. It is not something that we want to continue in the future, but to have a short stopgap measure that we're doing this. I think this is difficult for staff because I think that they really take a lot of pride in what our parks look like. And I think that we will return there, but I think that over the next few months, you may see trash not getting picked up quite as much. We may have a little bit more goose poop out at the lake, maybe not get the sweeper out quite as much. So maybe mow a little bit less frequently. So hopefully it won't be a huge impact, but I think that for those that use the parks a lot, they may see, a little bit less park maintenance in the next few months. Those staff positions will be reallocated to necessary projects in our lighting and landscape districts. And those projects were outlined by Mike, and there's a bulleted list there. So anyway, we are expecting to return to the Budget and Admin Committee, not return, but initiate at the Budget and Admin Committee meeting in February, and then to the board in February, year-end numbers for fiscal year 1920. So we should be able to let you know how we ended fiscal year 1920 by our next meeting. And we'll take that first to the Budget and Admin Committee and then to you. With that, is there any questions? And Vicky's present and staff is present. If there's any, specific questions, we can, walk through that.
This is Monique. I have a question regarding the pullback in Parks and Rec. If we're going to be moving forward with the nifty field renovations, if that actually gets done, we will have the staff to make sure that those are maintained from the, if we end up doing the rehab on them.
So Mike and I, and really Mike and the sports fields users are having a conversation, or we're entering into an agreement with our partners so that they are investing also in these fields. They're coming up with a 20% match. Our fees for rental have been historically low. But what we're talking to these folks who are investing in our fields about is a maintenance fee. And it will be an annual fee that is negotiated between the district and our user group, that they agree upon these annual maintenance tasks that will be done. And so we are looking at this maintenance fee that will help support additional staff, but will help support the maintenance of those fields. So we are coming up with a recipe to do that. So I think that it's difficult to know exactly what the long-term repercussions of COVID are going to be, but I think that during COVID, our use of our sports fields was very strong. And I would expect that to continue in the future. I think youth sports are very supported by families here.
Thanks. So do you think that when those sports fields, the sports groups are able to come back and use the field, and should they be rehabilitated, we'll be able to have the staff to maintain them in their new nifty form?
Yes, with the additional maintenance fee, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other comments from directors or questions, I should say?
This is Director Carlson, and I participated in the budget committee meeting and had a very thorough presentation from staff. And I just want to commend staff for pivoting in this difficult time and really reallocating staff in the district for really useful things that we need done, but in a way that reflects that we're not having as much recreation services, et cetera. So I think that this proposed budget really reflects a very realistic response to the COVID situation, and helps at the same time kind of prepare the district for moving forward in a way to eventually reopen. So I just want to commend staff for that. Thank you.
Yes, and then I will second that. That's almost feels like it needs a roll call to say specifically Jim and Vicky and Mike and Whitney and Sherry and Jed and Kayla and Alyssa and everybody. Just really appreciate the work and the thought you put into making this work, because there was a lot to process. Even down to little details, Mike, like thank you for the LLAD details for the allocations for where that's coming from specifically. That just helps us see that from a higher level, and I appreciate that. You all have been good to really give us specifics and help us see the thought that goes into this. I know it's been hard, but I really do appreciate your work to keep this going. Any questions from the directors at this point before I go out to the public?
Yeah, I had one other question. So now that you've called out all the department heads, so this was pretty much all the department heads came together and reviewed their budget and made recommendations for changes in their budget responsibilities.
I sat with each department head and we walked through their department budget. And I said, well, do you think we could trim a little bit more? Judd was like, well, yeah, I think so. So it was a line by line walkthrough. I think Vicki was not available or is out of the office or something. And because she was not here, I had the opportunity to walk through it with all the folks. So.
And we're thinking Nikki in that too, because I know she played an important part in working some of that. Sorry, Monique.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Boy, now I got to wrap my head around not being on that committee and now digesting being off the committee and digesting the committee's work. Because when I first read the packet, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember any of this happening. So thank you for that additional information. I'm happy to hear that all the department heads went through. So I trust your work.
Any other questions from directors before I go to the public? Okay, at this point, we'll open up to public comment on this. If you are interested in making a comment, please go ahead and raise your hand. We'll be happy to acknowledge you and let you give your input.
No
Okay.
hands raised.
Okay, seeing no hands, we will go ahead and close public comment at this point. Bring it back to the board. And so are there any other comments or observations, anything, directors, that you want to address at this point?
Oh, good grief. I did come up with another question. So this is I know budgets are just kind of like guidelines. This is what we'd like to happen. This is what we think we're going to happen. What degree of confidence would you apply to this? Do you think this is, pretty tight and that we think we're going to be within 10%? Or is this, we think that we're not quite as confident in our numbers as we think we should be?
I think generally staff budget so that they have some flexibility to respond to an emergency. Tree, falls across a parking lot at one of the parks and it's a big tree. Usually Mike, budgets enough so that he knows that is probably going to happen. At this point, any of that flexibility has been removed.
Okay, good to know.
And I can say, Director Scobie, that as we looked at in budget and admin, we went through all the different line items and the percentages year to date, recognizing what has and hasn't happened. So I feel good about the projections that have been made here. Obviously, it's projections, but recognizing where we've been and what's coming, not a whole lot we anticipate changing. There is some stability in this, except for emergencies, of course. But yeah, we felt pretty good about it.
After the budget and admin committee meeting, Vicki and I talked about, after the budget and admin committee meeting, we received the first installment of our property taxes. And also knowing that the housing market in Cameron Park is really hot right now. That's really the buzz, that homes are selling fast and they're selling for more than what they're being sold for. And that is being reflected in the first installment of our property taxes. So we, Vicki and I had a conversation and we did not project any increases to our property taxes. We would like to keep the budget at this point real tight until we understand what happened in 1920.
I might share that the real estate market from December 2019 to 2020 went up. The values went up 20.6% in that 12-month period. Property values for El Dorado County, granted it's not the same in every community, but it's a significant increase in value. So it's going to show up in our property values and our taxation eventually.
Okay, well, we did have that proposition pass where people are able to roll over their property value bases. So we might see a little decrease in that, right? If somebody brings their, $80,000 basis here to our county, we'd see a reduction in income.
Yeah, I haven't seen the numbers on that. I'm just talking about sale prices have gone up over 20% valuation in the last 12 months.
All right, well, we'll see when we get there. So thank you. I appreciate your answers.
All right, directors, any other questions or comments, or would somebody like to make a motion for this?
Yeah, this is Director Carlson. I'm going to move to approve fiscal year 2020-2021 fiscal year mid-year budget adjustments.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Director Scobie. General Manager, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Director Aston?
Aye.
Gosh, I just drew a blank. Sorry about that. Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette?
Aye.
Director Scobie?
Aye.
And Director Wooten?
Aye.
Okay, it was approved 5-0 vote. Thank you all, staff, for your input on that and your work, and thank you, directors, for your attention to this important piece for getting through this year. All right, we will now move forward to board information items. We will start with general matters to and from board members and staff. Let's go ahead and start with our staff who've been sitting here quietly listening to us talk. Let's give them a moment to stretch their vocal cords.
So, Mike, do you wanna chat for just a second?
Sure. So one thing I wanted, let me make sure I'm not muted. Okay. One thing I wanted to bring up to the board tonight is that our pool heater, the heater at the community center is on its last leg. So just to give a little background, it is the original pool heater. It's right at 11 years. And those pool heaters, you typically get between 10 and 15 years as a normal heater, and we're at 11. So at this point, we've had our pool contractor come out and basically band-aid the heater so that half of it is still operating. It is keeping the pool at the acceptable range for our user groups for now. But I am working with a couple of different vendors on trying to solicit some quotes for a new heater and an install of the new heater. So basically where we're at on that process right now is working on the funding and stuff. I know Jill and I have talked about utilizing the community center warranty work money that we're expecting to come in to purchase the new heater. I am looking at purchasing or getting pricing on so the heater we have now is an 80% efficient heater. So I think it's like the lowest heater that you can legally put in the state of California. So I'm getting pricing on a 98% efficient heater. Obviously more money, but saves in the propane costs in the long run. So we're kind of weighing those factors, but make a long story short, I'm hoping to have information for the budget and admin in February. Go ahead and I think the recommendation is to move forward with getting a new pool heater put in, because this one, the way the contractor put it to me is it could last 4 minutes or it could last 4 months.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, it's been about 3 weeks or so.
We are praying for 4 months.
Amen.
We need to get to May. That's kind of the goal.
Maybe you can hook some bikes up to that and that can become a spinning class.
Oh my God, can I bring my laptop? I'll work from there.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So honestly, I know the pool's got a solar heater, but in reality, the solar heater doesn't really, it won't do much till mid to late April.
Okay.
So
Thank you for that, Mike.
yeah, just so everyone knows too, the preliminary numbers that are coming in, we're looking somewhere between 30 and 45,000.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a cheap endeavor.
Thanks for the heads up.
I was bracing myself for more than that. So.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to give you a heads up just in case if the heater fails.
Yes.
There is an emergency inclusion in the purchasing policy for the general manager. So just know that we're trying to avoid that by rushing this to you, but just know that there may be something else too. So I wanted to give you a heads up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other fun news to report, Mike?
No, that's really all for me this evening.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go through there. Jim, anything to report tonight?
And I think Whitney had wanted to update everybody on the annual passes.
Yes. So we have been working with RecTrek, who is our software that we use for registration. And we are getting training with them the first week of February to be able to bring our passes so that we can be selling them online. So it was kind of a matter of like purchasing a new module, all these things. We kind of figured out the cost and what we think will be able to generate more revenue with being able to offer it online. And Felicity will be happy to hear that we are in talk with them on just what their plan is and how they can help us get things more mobile friendly and get that side of the website dialed in so that it's easier and more user friendly, especially as hopefully as the months tick by, we can we'll start having more things that people want to register for and all that jazz. So by the time we have things re-entered into the system, it'll look nicer and cleaner and easier for everybody to use. And our plan also, along with the annual passes, is to, once it is all up and online, we are in the process of developing a mailer to go out to all of our residents. We're working with our guide designer to develop something that's much smaller than an activity guide, to just kind of touch base with all of our residents and let them know that we miss them and what we have worked, what we're working on, the things that we're confident will happen in the summer. Like, for the most part, since the pool's been able to be open this whole time, knock on all of the wood, it's hard to like put something in print and knowing that it's going to, wind up in somebody's mailbox and potentially, sit on their fridge or on their coffee table. So we don't put anything in there that could, who knows. We've learned, if we've learned nothing else this year, we've learned to not think that everything's going to go the way we've anticipated. So we're going to emphasize a lot of the aquatics programming that we feel confident that we'll be able to deliver, as well as just like some good resources, and then a lot of places to remind people to go check our website, because there's a lot of people who haven't connected with us because of if people are only connecting with us through paper in their mailbox, like it used to with our activity guide. And now that we've shifted to the e-newsletter and social media and the website, there's a fair amount of our community that haven't heard from us at all, if they haven't seen us in those 3 places. So we're excited to get the mailer out and into mailboxes. I don't have a date yet, but as soon as I do, I'll let you guys know so you guys can look for it in your own mailboxes.
Great. Thank you, Whitney. That's good.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I have a question for Whitney.
Yes.
Sure.
When do you think those annual passes will actually hit the, when do you think we'll actually start collecting revenues for those passes?
February, I would say early February is when we'll start. Once we get it in the system with the new module we purchased through RecTrack and get the training for us to learn how to get into the system, we will start pushing it big time on social media, our website, and then we'll see probably another big jump in purchases once the mailer hits mailboxes, which we're hoping it'll be in mailboxes the end of February at the latest.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Wow, that's sooner than I thought. And then I had another question for you, Whitney.
Sure.
How's the grant writing going?
It's great. It's stretching me. It's like helping me things that I've never done before. So I actually have a call tomorrow with our grant writer, and just going to kind of have her pep talk me and help me like just feel a little bit less overwhelmed. It's a matter of just keeping things organized and digging into it. But I just feel like, talking to someone who is an expert on it will just kind of help me chart the rest of my course. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm kind of stuck on is this community engagement piece, because all of the standards were written like way pre-COVID. So I just kind of want to touch base with her, because I know she's in this regularly, touch base with her about that community engagement piece and, what we've done with Ben and ICRA in terms of our community surveys. What more do we need to do to be able to get a good score in that criteria?
And then has those grants been identified have you identified grants that we're actually applying for?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
providing the ones that we've already identified?
So the ones that I'm working on right now are due on March 12th, and it's through the state of California, the Prop 68 money. So what we had already kind of showed you guys was the per capita money. That's a non-competitive grant. So right now we're working on the Prop 68 competitive side of the grants.
Okay.
So that will be for hopefully the splash pad and like all of the improvements at Cameron Park Lake will be the first one that I submit.
I'm sure you're going to write a grant that's going to get us 110% of what we need.
Yes, I feel confident in that too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Whitney, for picking that up and running with it. Really do appreciate it.
No problem.
Any other questions for Whitney before we move on? All right, Jim, coming back to you this time. Anything to report?
Well, Whitney touched base on one of the items that we're working on, and one I have to also really,
Oh,
excuse me?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. One, I have to really express my appreciation for the strategic plan, in a sense that everybody recognizes that CCNRs not only are a value, but they do need improvement, or more support, or future support, I guess, is what's being slated here for the 5-year plan. And when I was interviewed and when I was hired into this position, there was a few items that Jill expressed that have, over the 5 months that I've been here, have really hit home, and I've seen them rise to the top of the issues around the neighborhoods. Lyle Urquhart actually, he created a presence in this community that actually very much resonated with the residents of this community. And as we do these surveys, I see more and more comments that they reference Lyle. And that's one of these things that, as I get into this job more and more, I've been experimenting in different ways that I approach the community. And I'm not talking about over the phone. Over the phone is a little bit of it. I'm talking about out in the field. And that's why, going back to the 5-year plan, I really appreciate what's being done here, because in the next 5 years, this plan is hopefully going to help us, along with other tools that we're developing, like Whitney explained, are going to help us eventually go back to the ballot and see if we can increase that assessment for the CCNR department. And I think it's actually going to be extremely crucial. Now, when I signed on, I knew this. I guess what I should say is this has nothing to do with my salary. It has to do, my biggest concern is making sure that 5 years from now, that this department is still stable or has a stable operating budget. If I'm not here, I want somebody to be able to come in and be able to handle this position. As well as Lyle or me or Kate, or if not better. So in saying that, Whitney explained one tool that we've used. I've got a couple different tools that I've used in Air Park that was a success. We've also implemented some ideas that came from board and committees of signage, and they're being used out there as well, reminding people to do ARC. But CCNRs is starting to rise to the very, very top. I realize my position is CCNR, but there's several different hats in there. And CCNR is definitely one of those that I really would like to pressure myself and anybody that's supporting me to make more of a presence out there in the community. I am a face that comes to them, while our other departments are faces that the community goes to them. You know, they go to the park, but I'm the one approaching them at their house. So just to summarize, we are putting some tools and plans in place to help improve that image from this department.
Thank you, Jim. Very much. We recognize that what you do just doesn't get talked about a whole lot, and it happens every day and every week, and really do appreciate you being out there.
And I'm more than happy to help you with that if you give me a holler.
I think you mentioned something about an electric scooter for Ellie to go around town and do that with, or?
No, he
I like it.
can hardly talk. I finally talked to him once.
There you go. All right. Last staff report from everybody. We'll do the collective. Sherry, Jed, Callan, sorry. Checking in with you all to see how you're doing. Anything to report to us?
Yeah, I'll just real quick. We completed the fuels reduction project under the CCI grant at Royal Park. That's along Cameron Park Drive where Deer Creek crosses. Back in there, we treated 11 acres of the district's land in there. If you get a chance to go out and see it, we We had some PowerPoints and some before and after photos that we presented at the fire committee meeting. We were very happy with the way it turned out, and we were also able to help Grassley out with his shop with the little piece that was treated, the little creek that runs behind the CSD over there. We got in there and took out some hazard trees and stuff that were in there that he was having a hard time getting mitigated. So we're real happy with how that turned out. And we are also applying for a grant that's due here at the end of the month for some new extrication equipment, and we'll see how that goes. So it's our first time applying for this one, but seems like a pretty decent grant, and I think we should have a good shot at it. So myself and Jessica Garrison have been working on that one. So more to come on that. End of report.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to say, Jed, that if you guys haven't been out to the park, the before and after work is absolutely incredible. What they were able to get done with the CCI grant and the contractor, it's really, really a good thing. So you guys should, take some time to take a look. You won't recognize it.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. Hey, Jed, did we get the radios from the other grant that we applied for?
Actually just received them in the mail a couple of days ago. So we're getting them all inventoried, and then we got to get them programmed and some of them installed. Yeah, we just received them. So now now that we received them, I got the paid invoice. So we have to submit that to the grant for their share of reimbursement.
Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
Do you know what time are they going to do this, pardon me, training on your Form 700?
That's not a Jed question, Director Wooten, and
Yeah,
we'll come up with that in just a minute, I think.
Ellie, Alyssa's going to call you on that. So you just hang
Okay, I'll
tight.
talk to you tomorrow on it.
Yeah, Alyssa will call you on it.
Great. All right. So that sounds like the end of the report. Anything else, Sherry or Kellen? Chief Moran.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, sorry. Nothing new to report. I know that at the last board meeting, Chief Morans had mentioned that we were going to start looking at doing some inspections on businesses that weren't state mandated occupancies, and we've started to do that beginning 2021 in some of our higher hazard areas. With a lot of, there's some corrections and violations, nothing crazy major, but there's definitely those occupancies that haven't really been mandated to be inspected that we're now inspecting on our 3-year cycle. So that's been going good and getting good public education out there, talking to some of the folks and business owners about kind of why we're doing it, and they're mostly supportive of it and understanding. So
mostly.
And as I remember, Director Scobie asked this question, and I think it's been kind of a slower rollout because it's changed, but we will be charging for this. And that is, it's in our fee schedule, and it is taking Chief Richards his time to spend sometimes hours to do these inspections. So so we are starting that now.
Wonderful.
And then for myself, I just sent the general manager, I know we discussed it, fire committee, I believe, the first responder fee. We're kind of in the beginning steps with that. So I do have an estimate from a consultant to do a nexus study for that. And so I expect to take that to our fire committee in February, and then hopefully to the board, following that we can actually start moving forward with starting with the first responder fee.
And more to come on that. I don't want to talk too much more about that because it's a future board item. So
got it.
Great. Okay. Unless there's anything else from our fire partners. I think most of what you said tonight, Vicki, was in the report. Anything else you want to bring to us?
I think we're good.
Yeah, you're muted there. Don't know if.
Hi. I wanted to tell you that it seems kind of odd but we've already started our 21-22 budget process. That budget process starts with various worksheets that we develop and working with the managers. It will come to you on in April. So we got a little bit of time, but we're on it.
That's wonderful.
I know it's kind of weird. We just did the mid-year for this year and now we're doing next year.
Budget never stops.
But it does kind of seem like budgeting is a year-round job. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is I am going to be gone for a couple of weeks in February. And so I have Laura here and Nikki here. So if you all have any issues, they can help.
So you're saying if we have issues, see them.
Well, you might want to see Jill first.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Vicki.
Yes.
We'll miss you and look forward to getting you back. Okay, moving on then, any matters to and from board. Director Carlson, let's start with you.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge how we had a peaceful transition of power today in the United States. We had one earlier here at the Cameron Park Community Services District. We had one at the county, and I'm just really pleased to be in a country that we can, if you don't like who's in there, you can mobilize, you can run for office, you can vote. But I also feel like it's more important than ever that we are able to gear back up to our community recreation activities. You know, it's so important that we all have relationships with people they're our friends, they're our workout buddy, they're our neighbors, and maybe they vote for somebody else besides who you vote for. But it's important that we continue to have those community ties, because that really is the most important bind that we have in our community. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, Director Carlson. All right, Dr. Scobie.
I wanted to see if Alyssa or staff was going to go ahead and let all of us board members know which one of these upcoming trainings we need to do, because I know some of them are required to do. So maybe I could just ask now, let me know which ones I need to do. I can handle the Form 700 myself, but if I need to take any of the sexual harassment or the ethics or anything, I don't know if I'm due, so.
So actually, Alyssa, Nikki, and I are meeting tomorrow to review everybody's training and our district of distinction, and kind of get up to everybody kind of a checklist of what needs to get done. So I did take a look at the SDRMA Education Day. There is not a governance piece on that. And also note that the dates have changed. So most of the workshops associated with that SDRMA Spring Education Day are really staff driven. So you're welcome to take a look at it. There might be something that is of interest to you, but I just didn't see it there.
Okay. And then I just wanted to share with my fellow board members and everybody here that disc golf course is packed every weekend. It's amazing how popular that is. And I did not expect that. I guess because I don't play disc golf, but I mean, it's really heartwarming for us as a community to add an amenity like that and do it in such a financially stewardish way, or whatever we put on our values, and engage with our partners and have our community using it. It's just, I don't know, it's really heartwarming. I look out my window, so I see them. They're out there every weekend. And I know the parks and everybody's all aware of that too. So, and yeah, everybody stay safe. Vaccines are out. We will return to normal. So just stay strong. And yeah, I guess we're all going to hunker down and get shot. Get a vaccine shot. So, and thank you for staff for everything you do. We do have a I know it's been hard on everybody, all of us and our partners and stuff. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Director Scobie. Director Wooten, anything to
I
report?
really don't have too much. I'm going to talk to Jill tomorrow regarding the Form 700, which I hate, tomorrow. But that's about it, because I decided I'm not taking the sexual harassment prevention training at my age. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Director Wooten.
All right, sweetie.
Director Bazette, I don't know how you follow that, but I'll give you a shout out.
That's a tough one. Yeah, that'll be between Ellie and I guess we'll figure that one out.
Oh, shit.
Who needs the training more? I did meet with Jill yesterday, and I was kind of heartened by one of the things she said is that we did get some vaccines available, and my understanding is the paramedics vaccinated about 9 of our employees, and I think all of the parks people. So I'm really happy to see that slowly but surely we're getting people taken care of, and it was good collaboration with the fire department. I'm on a short waiting list with the county health department for a vaccine, so there's thousands, both the Pfizer and the COVID apparently have come into the county, but it's getting them delivered, and I mean into people's arms, I guess, is the main thing. So slowly but surely we are returning to normal. And then I wanted to second Director Carlson. Is just historic and amazing to watch this this day transform. And 5 or 6 years ago, I was in the Capitol with my son and my wife, and just amazing to see those places and realize history is being made today. And it's and so heartening and so hopeful. So it's good to see that in the local as well, that we are a democracy and we are hopefully representing what people want. So it's kind of an exciting day, I think, in our history.
Thank you, Director Bazette, and I'll second that. You're echoing the very conversation I had with my students this morning. Had the serendipity of starting my class just as the official swearing in section began. So yes, they got to see Lady Gaga and Jennifer Lopez, but they got to see the formal ceremony, which is just so short. And there it is. There's the peaceful transfer of power right there. Most of them had never seen an inauguration before. It was also fun to point out to them that I sit on this board with these directors, and every time we are elected or appointed, we take a similar oath to uphold the Constitution, to fulfill our duties, etc. And it's just spectacular to see that at all levels of governance and leadership, we have this same core commitment. It was really affirming. So I appreciated hearing and seeing that today too. So thank you all for your chiming in here. Really do appreciate that. I have nothing else to report on that. So let's go ahead and we'll move on. I think we've said what we need to on the upcoming trainings, community meetings, General Manager. Anything else on that?
No.
Okay. All right. So let's go to committee reports. And we'll start with budget and admin, since it is listed first. Director Carlson, I know I didn't ask you ahead of time, but would you like to speak to that? You want me to pick that up?
Oh, boy. I would like you to pick it up, because all I'm going to say is that we basically just already discussed it at the mid-year.
Correct.
So.
Yeah, most of our work was mid-year budget adjustments. We did some discussion on work plan for 2021, which of course is coming both for our committee and all committees. So we'll continue to be looking at that as you are sitting in your newly appointed committees. I'll be watching for that. And that was most of the work for budget and admin. We're looking forward to what's coming next month with the year-end close, and then beginning to move toward the process of our 21-22 budget. So that's it for budget and admin. CC&R committee did not meet in January. That was due to, we're still in the process for the appointments for those, which is another opportunity to just congratulate all of the members of the public who have been appointed and are serving on that. Really looking forward to seeing their engagement with it. And some of that's already begun with ARC. So grateful for that. Fire and emergency services. We have a report out from that. That's going to
So
be,
Yeah,
Go
so I think mainly it was just the plan for the next year and some educational opportunities. There was a situation where they had to quarantine some workers, but I think there's nothing out of the ordinary. So it was mainly planning this next year is my understanding. The strategic plan, I guess, is what you call it.
okay. Anything else to report on that? Okay, then move to Parks and Rec Committee. That'd be Director Carlson, Director Bowers.
Yes. Yep, we had a review of the park improvement plan, the status and the timeline. We had Calendar and Associates attending to answer questions about that. And we discussed the work plan for 2021, kind of the big picture. Thank you. Is that, oh, you don't have that up. Okay, but and one of the things that we talked about potentially adding to the work plan was signage at the parks, acknowledging that the CSD maintains these parks and that this is a park. You know, things like that. Like to me, that's actually a transparency item. This land is a CSD land, and people need to know that. That their tax dollars support it. We had oral written updates, the recreation report, the status update on the Prop 68 for the sports field renovation project. You know, again, if we were not, I like that word stewardish, by the way. I think that might be my word for 2021, Director Scobie. If we were not stewardish people, we would let there be lots of potholes in the fields, but we're working on making those fields safer for the players. And then Mike, as usual, gave us a lengthy report on all the maintenance that needs deferred and proactive maintenance that the district is doing right now on our facilities. And that was pretty much it.
Wonderful. Thank you for that report. Look forward to continuing to get reports as we move forward in that park improvement plan. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of the committee reports. And as we have no closed session agenda items to address or deal with tonight, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Competing motions. Go for it. Somebody.
I'll second.
Okay, so I think Sydney, you motioned to adjourn.
I
Dr.
did.
Scobie, you seconded. We need to do roll call officially on Lions. So, General Manager?
Director Aston?
Aye.
Director Carlson?
Aye.
Director Bazette?
Aye.
Director Scobie?
Aye, and good night,
Director-
everyone.
Director Wooten?
Aye.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
9:16 p.m.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
your
for being
work.
here.
Good night.
See you guys.
Be safe.
Good night.